So, did you guys know Goku was apparently like an adaptation of the Monkey King story? Okay, so I'm checking forums right now, and it looks like most of you already knew that, but it's new to me, and I've never read the book, and I thought it was cool, so I wanted to mention it. Soon Wukong has thousands of different self-advancement combinations you can explore for certain builds, but I honestly think some are just way more necessary than others. The realm of Eastern mythology is cherished by literally billions of people, so even if you haven't played this game, and you totally should, there's still a pretty decent chance you'll actually recognize a lot of the content in the main story of the game, either from the book itself, or from other media like the 90s television show. Yeah, there was a 90s television show. Yeah, this rabbit hole goes deep. If you're currently watching this, that means the game is already available on PlayStation and both the Steam and Epic Games launchers. The combat feels wonderful, every spirit and transformation feels unique and give you certain advantages without feeling like they're being repeated in some way. The cinematics blow my balls off, and the whole game is just, it's a really good time. I no-lifed the entire thing in like 3 days, and by the time I'm done with this script, I'll have probably started another playthrough. Number 10, whirling thrusts. Okay, so I'm just putting this one on here because it's fun as shit. It can flinch standard enemies pretty easily. It's a great way to hold faster enemies in place since they usually just get relentlessly staggered by the high attack frequency. And it even comes in handy during boss encounters since heavy attacks that use a focus point usually force a stagger, meaning the jabs from holding light attack can immediately capitalize on a boss that's currently trying to pick their ass up off the floor. However, this move does come with one large caveat, being that it can burn through the stamina tank very quickly if you were doing something else immediately before, but it can still laser down bosses like Captain Wisevoice very efficiently when he's in the staggered state, and connecting with multiple hits at a time can build up huge amounts of damage in just a couple seconds. It's not the most effective attack string that the game gives you, and it does have its own set of shortcomings, but it's got plenty of little proficiencies you'll start seeing here and there once you start using it in fights. Number 9, Tyranny of Numbers. Okay, so here's the thing about a pluck of many. It needs a shitload of mana, but if all the extra U's can actually manage to keep themselves alive for more than 5 seconds, they can do a wonderful job bursting down a big enemy like a boss. Your job is to bust a dude's kneecaps with the hardest hitting heavy attack combo you have available, and open up the window for everyone else to do the damage. Using a focus point to lead into a heavy attack can knock most bosses on their ass no matter how beefy they are, allowing your clones to just go in and shave a giant chunk off their health bar. And if that doesn't work, then I'll just take out their shins with a cloud step. That shit can stagger anything. Parrying with rock solid seems to do this too, although not as reliably. And with Tyranny of Numbers, that strategy just keeps getting better. You can crash the immobilize spell that much quicker, you can redirect the enemy's attention from yourself so you can throw back a couple gourd uses, and when you have a boss on the back foot, more damage on a spell with this much pressure is just something that you're really gonna want. Number 8, Punishing Downpour. Most weapon and armor effects usually affect a spell or a very specific move that you probably won't use too frequently or just forget you have altogether. Punishing Downpour is not that. It's really not that at all. It is a signature move, a staple in what I'm estimating to be everyone's build just because of how upgrade friendly it is. Other upgrades that involve finishing a light combo can play to its benefit, Composure and Sturdy can both affect it, and even the Kongjin staff has its own specific interaction with it. You don't even need to go past the 3rd chapter, and you'll just be tripping over random upgrades for this move just like in the snow or something. The Kongjin staff also opens up the ability to do thunder damage with the finisher that gets applied to all enemies in a decently close area. It is technically an AoE, like I've seen multiple dudes get hit by it with the same attack, but it's not like a wide area or anything. It's the 4th upgrade down in the martial arts column, but I'd get it as soon as you're able to, since light attack finishers are one of your main sources of damage. Number 7, Instinct. In Black Myth, heavy blows are your bread and butter. It's where most of your damage comes from. It's a very easy way to flinch enemies and keep them from trying to kill you, and they also have a very steep asking price when it comes to stamina. The Instinct upgrade cuts down on that cost very, very significantly. Running out of stamina equals bad is probably the last tip any of you needed, but this game leaves you especially helpless since you can't use heavy attacks or light attack finishers when your stamina is depleted, and on most basic builds, those moves are where just about all your damage and stagger is gonna come from. So if you start comboing on a dude, you better be 100% intent on finishing it. The Instinct upgrade makes it that much easier, at least with heavy attacks that use focus points. Number 6, Everlasting Vigor. I think most of you know the deal by now with games like this. In stamina-driven games, a healthy dose of stamina regen usually ends up being the linchpin in your whole kit. You can get this upgrade extremely early, likely before you even finish the first chapter, and you get a solid return on your investment for just the whole rest of the game. It's just always working for you. It's got a little benefit in just about every crevice of gameplay you would need. Dodging, chaining combos, using charged heavy attacks, or just generally having a proactive playstyle, which is something that you very much need. What you're doing can quickly slip away from you, and not paying attention to your stamina is an incredibly easy mistake to make, especially during more cinematic fights like with the Kangjin Lung. Another benefit of Everlasting Vigor that I really like, and even started to depend on late into the game, is the recovery from either light attack finishers or in-combo heavy attacks such as Skyfall Strike. If you want to hand out some massive damage, you're gonna have to dig deep and burp out some massive stamina. No magic medicine, no silver bullet, there's just no way around it. And if you're committing to a specific combo, that usually ends up being all of it. Number 5, Composure. This one ends up being really practical against faster enemies that require large amounts of stamina spending to keep up with. Composure is powerful because there are earlier upgrades and a bunch of other equipment effects that give very specific buffs to light attack finishers, such as the Twin Serpents and Kangjin stabs and the punishing Downpour upgrade. Composure makes it to where getting to that final attack in the chain doesn't require nearly as much effort, since you can just immediately pick up where you left off in the combo right after dodging. It's great against high action bosses designed to keep you constantly doing something, and as long as you leave just a bit of stamina left over for the light attack finisher to actually be performed, it's a very comfortable mainstay that I always have on. Number 4, Concealed Observation. I know it's hard to fight the ancient reptilian brain reflex to immediately attack after going into Cloud Step just because it feels fun and it looks really cinematic, and you should probably do it anyways, it probably doesn't matter that much. But it's better to pop it off and then stay obscured for a few seconds and use it as a stealth utility. You can even combine it with other items like the Amplification Pellets, which increases all of your critical chance by 10. This opens up a window for a potential critical hit build in the late game, especially if you're using the Wind Bear Staff, which also increases the critical chance of Unveiling Strike by a considerable amount. The effect can stack up to 10 times, once per second, and the final duration of the Cloud Step is just barely enough to squeeze in all 10 stacks before attacking out of it. Critical chance is one of those stats that get indirectly affected by a lot of different upgrades and medicines and other resources in the game, so there's plenty of room to Jenga tower a few of them together and make a pretty decent critical hit build by the time you're halfway into the game. Number 3, Hidden Might. When you're using transformation spells, your stamina meter gets replaced with something called Might. This allows you to properly gauge how many actions you have left in the tank before you revert back to your meager monkey self. Unlocking one of these at a time doesn't seem to do much, but you'll eventually get to the point where you can squeeze in 2 or 3 dodge heavies with a single Red Tides transformation. That's a very roundabout explanation that's intended to say, hey, Might is fucking important and you should upgrade it. Hidden Might determines the amount of time you can spend in your transformations, and more specifically, the amount of actions you can perform when in the transformed state. When you have all 6 of them, it really makes a noticeable difference. Honestly, just about all the transformation upgrades are pretty important. It really just depends on whatever transformation spell you're using. Evergreen is pretty important too, but this only seems to affect the natural decay of the Might meter when you're not really doing anything of significance except running around dodging spam. Number 2, Evanescence. The Immobilize spell seems simple enough to use on paper, but it's really a spell that needs to be levied quite a bit. Using it on any boss with an inch of verticality to them has a non-zero chance of inconveniently freezing them in the air where you can't reach, and you'll just waste a focus point by tickling the boss's chin with a heavy attack or something. From what I can tell by using it, it seems to have the same window of opportunity as a regular dodge, maybe just a bit longer. You can pair it with a passive focus regen medicine to make sure all of your focus points are ready to go when the time comes, and you can hand out the most amount of damage possible during the critical moment. I would also warn against trying to stack it with other spells unless Immobilize is the very last spell that you pop off. Even a fully upgraded Immobilize can only last for around 5 seconds, and being caught in the long animation of some other spell while the clock is ticking is not the position you want to find yourself in. Cast the spell, and then put your ass in go mode and just start attacking. Number 1, Bold Venture. Ain't no cerulean flask gonna help you out of this. If you want that mana back, you're gonna have to pick a fight. And Bold Venture is one of the most reliable tools you're ever gonna have in that endeavor. Mana is a resource that needs to be used as conservatively as possible. You can't just throw back mana regen potions like you're in Final Fantasy VII and spam clones at the Black Bear for 5 minutes and call it a job well done. Forming a build around Rock Solid with this self-advancement allows you to take advantage of other items like the Copper Pill Soak, which cancels the mana cost for Rock Solid after a heal. This combination creates the only net positive mana return on a successful parry that is available in the entire game. Not even Ring of Fire can do that shit for you. And more mana means more spells, means more damage, means less time you have to spend ramming your head repeatedly into the same boss. Rock Solid already fares well enough against any boss if your pattern recognition is above a 5th grade level, but the extra mana adds up over time to where you can easily ring out an extra 2 immobilize cast in a boss fight. The self-advancement even has 2 notches, and upgrading it a second time can further increase the mana regen without any expense to the parry window. I actually found myself walking out of boss fights with a good bit of mana still left over, and that shit just never happens. This obviously isn't the most comprehensive list anyone could make on self-advancement since there are literally hundreds to choose from. Every self-advancement can work towards something, and I can't think of too many that feel insignificant or left out in some way. So if you felt like skylarking deserved a spot on here, then, well, I can't really think of an argument against it, so why the hell not? Black Myth Wukong is packed with Eastern mythology that a lot of people are already very familiar with. If you even kind of know what this game is, then I can already wager you've been looking forward to it for years. And if you don't know what it is, then, well, I think it might be time you change that. You can buy it now either on PlayStation or the Steam and Epic game launchers. Confront Destiny and delve into the enchanting realm of Eastern mythology using my link in the description and pinned comment.